So it's really about building my self-mastery to be able to face whatever life throws at me, right? But I have an inner compass. I have something that I can trust. I have a roadmap. And so it has definitely increased my level of trust, especially on me. It's a tool for self-mastery. We have a built-in compass, right, in our bodies. And it's really reinforcing and reassuring the trust within you without the validation of anything outside of you. Now I'm able to know a decision that is aligned and feel good about it and trust it. The most important decisions in our life are not made with our mind, they're made with something in our body, something that we need to listen to in our body. So I can make decisions with full trust, knowing that they are aligned for me. I know what to listen to. I have more trust when saying no. I started saying more no's that are in alignment as well. So that also changed. Not everything that comes our way is meant for us. And again, tuning in and knowing what you need to listen to allows you to engage your energy, because that's all it is.
Welcome to another episode of Extraordinary Leadership Podcast. Today, I'm having a conversation with an expert on human design, Paula Torraco. If you haven't heard about human design yet, it's a system or a framework that helps you to understand your energetic blueprint and how really do you lead, operate, behave. We are going to unpack actually this framework today, focusing first of all on what is it about, but also why is that important for leaders, for teams, for business owners. And I had the pleasure to also had a session with Paula about it. So definitely we will reflect or refer to some of those conversations and what were my findings around mind energy blueprint as well. And Paula is an absolute expert, very passionate about it. And I can't wait to start this conversation with her right now. Thank you, Paula, for being here with me.
Thank you, Dagmara. What a beautiful introduction. And thank you for having me here. I'm really excited.
Beautiful. And before we go to the human design, it will be great to hear your story. And, how did you come to human design and what you do, where you apply it as well?
Okay. So I'm Paula. I'm Argentinian. I live in Amsterdam. And I bring that up because it's part of my story. I actually am an industrial designer by profession. That's what I studied. And then something happened in my life where it seems to be kind of a pattern where there was kind of a rug pull, right? So in 2013, I was traveling and then I went back home and my apartment was completely empty. And so I was robbed and I decided to move to the Netherlands where I live now. And that was the first of many transformations, right? I no longer worked as an industrial designer. I started working in corporate where I kind of had, I developed another side of myself, right? As a people manager. I started working in this huge pharmaceutical corporation for 7 years. And then in 2020, I decided to leave my job and start my coaching practice, which, by the way, I didn't know I was going to be a coach. Actually, when I left in the middle of the pandemic and everything, people approached me saying, how did you do that? Right? Like, what do you know? And so I started coaching. And then, of course, I went on and studied and got certified and everything. But in those years, I came across again human design. And I say again because I had found this system years ago, but I really didn't resonate with it at all. I had such a resistance, right? But then this time around 2020, I was like, okay, there's something here. It just clicked and I just went fully in. And this is how I came actually this beautiful system. So I started my experiment for myself, and then I saw how powerful it was. So I thought everyone needs to know about this, and this is where I started introducing it in my coaching practice, and it kind of took over, right? So now I mostly specialize on human design. I do coaching, but I will never start a coaching journey without knowing someone's human design. And that's the power that I find in it.
Beautiful. So I'm, curious, and I think listeners too, because it's like, so what is it? What is it? But yeah, great story. And I remember you shared that with me a couple of years back when we met in Amsterdam for the very first time, since we've been also in before that in another program together. So Paula, before we go into exploring this human design, I have this last curiosity question, and maybe listeners too. What has
Mm.
changed for you and maybe for people that you work with after, discovering and understanding actually and embracing human design?
A sense of trust. I'm going to start with that, because at the end, it's all about like life will happen. We know that, like everyone, I'm pretty sure that everyone that is listening has something happen to them unexpected, right? But now what I have is a tool, is a roadmap to go to. I have something I can rely on. So it's really about building my self mastery to be able to face whatever life throws at me, right? But I have an inner compass. I have something that I can trust. I have a roadmap. And so it has definitely increased my trust, my level of trust, especially on me. That's why I call it, it's a tool for self mastery. We have a built-in compass, right, in our bodies, and we will talk more about it when I actually go into what it means, what human design means, and everything. But at the end of the day, it's really reinforcing and reassuring the trust within you without the validation of anything outside of you. Right. So what changed for me is that now I'm able to know a decision that is aligned and feel good about it and trust it. The most important decisions in our life are not made with our mind. They're made with something in our body, something that we need to listen to in our body. So I can make decisions with full trust, knowing that they are aligned for me. I know what to listen to. Right. I also know I have
Yeah.
more trust when saying no. I started saying more no's that are in alignment as well. So that also changed. Not everything that comes our way is meant for us. And again, tuning in and knowing what you need to listen to allows you to engage your energy, because that's all it is, right? And engage your energy in commitments that are aligned, that feel good and expansive, and actually to say no to those who are not, right? And again, build the trust that when I say no, I know that something more aligned will come my way.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So basically, I'm hearing the trust and understanding self and knowing how to take decision is decision
Yeah.
taking itself. And in business, there are well, especially there are a lot of complex decisions leaders face. Right, they are not easy decisions. They are not mathematical, always
No.
logical. We tend to believe that logical way of decision taking is the way, but it's far from. So those empowered, important decisions require us to connect with something bigger. We call it intuition, but we also need to know what is it, this intuition or intuitive mind and energy. So that's definitely has been as well for me, discovering the whole intuitive process of decision making with, of course, your framework, but also in other context of embodiment work that I bring to leaders.
It's fascinating when you actually bring this awareness, because that's all it is, right? This awareness to the team. So how
Mhm.
everyone is designed to do life, how everyone is making decisions, how everyone, each team member uses their energy, so that they can actually, again, co-create, but also honor each other's differences. Right. So, for example, and I'm just going to start throwing some names that are like human design terminology. And I like to do it without the jargon, but some names, the energy type, it is what it is. Right. So, I'm a generator, for example. I work better with options. So, asking me, what is my 5-year plan? It's a little bit challenging because I actually need options. So, knowing that, bringing that awareness to teams. If I would have now a team member, right, that is a generator, I will not ask that question as such, but I will actually phrase it in a way that I can help the other person make a decision better. I wouldn't say an open-ended question that might work really well for you being a projector, right? Like you love that because we need to hear your perspective. I work better with options. And so knowing that can already help you support your team members better as a leader, for example. If I were to ask the same question today, and this is how I help teams and the people that I work with, I would actually say, give options, right? So instead of thinking or asking, how is your 5-year career plan or 10-year career plan? Do you see yourself more as an individual contributor? Do you see yourself as a team leader? Do you see yourself in a management position? That helps people actually drop into their bodies. And that's the power of human design.
Mm.
It actually helps us get out of our head and drop into the wisdom of our body.
Beautiful. And of course, it is for, as you mentioned, it works for certain types more than the others. So we're going just about to enter into explaining that. And so what I'm taking away for teams is obviously like another intelligence system. So another next level of awareness, first of all, we can call
Absolutely.
it. And we know that more aware we are, the better leaders we are. And we can see and spot much more. And it helps us to position, to lead, to communicate more empathetically, more compassionately, and more
Absolutely.
effectively. And I can see how, of course, knowing each other in a team in relation to other frameworks that I'm also working with in terms of team awareness and stuff. Of course, each of them is like another puzzle of, yeah, better communication, right? And understanding, mutual understanding in the team, which of course then leads to a better collaboration and co-creation.
We all want to
Sure.
bring ourselves fully to whatever we're doing, right? And when we have that permission to actually say, you know what, like this is how I use my energy, this is what best works for me, and I can have a language to ask for that as well. It also makes me a more empowered team member because I can say, you know what, this is what I need. Using my energy in this or this way will be much more productive for me, or it will actually improve my performance because I know what I bring to the table, right? So it also gives a language to the team members, not just the leader, but everyone of what they need, right? And most of the times, it's, in my experience, it's something that they knew about themselves, but then it was like, oh, yes, it's kind of finding validation in who they are and why they have certain tendencies, right? And it's not about just like using them as an excuse. Of course not. It's about actually leveraging them to the benefit of everyone.
Yes, I can see that. And obviously, any of these systems and frameworks, once it is in the team context, then it brings, as you mentioned, this common language, and it's
Yeah.
so important. And I think the second is this feeling I can show up myself fully, because ultimately this specific system or framework, whichever we want to call it, is of fostering also authentic leadership and authentic connections, versus some other frameworks have some other
Yeah.
objective in it. So, and on that, Paula, if we could very briefly elicit what, from your perspective, is a main difference between, let me see, personality styles like
Mm.
Myers-Briggs, discs, and all the many different, versus this
I
one.
love that question because I know those systems are well established. You know, I used to work with them with the insights training and everything when I was in corporate, right? The main difference is actually that this does not depend on your answers because it's actually based on your date of birth. So human design is a system that actually combines elements from astrology, the gene keys, the chakra system. So it really combines ancient wisdom with modern science, right? And it uses your date of birth to create a roadmap, an energetic blueprint of how you are particularly designed to thrive in life, right? And so the difference is that you're not answering a set of questions because at the end,
Mm.
you can be as subjective as your level of awareness, as your
Mm.
level of consciousness, right? And this actually takes that out of the equation.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned the consciousness, because this is how I see this system and framework, right? It is not about skill focused, right? It's really about who you really are and elevating your consciousness, right? How can you lead more empowered, but also more aligned with that
Mm.
true self, and liberated from the conditioning. So I'm just, when you were sharing, I was just thinking, wow, if I knew about human design like about 10 years ago, it was helped me much more, because, when we had a session, of course, there was, and it's fascinating because quite a lot, of course, was confirmation. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing that. That's great. And there was still some learning. And I consider myself, as a person that since 10 years is in this transformative work. Now, if I was 10 years ago completely in a lower level of awareness and consciousness, that would have been, like opening the box and probably speeding up also, or accelerating certain shifts. So it's a very valuable, profound and yeah, a different purpose framework. So what would you like to share
Okay.
about it, to the listeners? What is the human design? Let's unpack this
So,
question.
above all, it's a system, it's a system of self awareness and self knowledge. So, as I shared, it asks your date of birth and your place of birth. And based on that, it gives you your unique energetic blueprint, right? So it gives you information of how you are uniquely wired to do life. And we all know we're different. I'm not going to be doing life in the same way as you are. And the more I know that for myself, the more I can lean into that and make decisions and use my energy in the way that is more supportive of my own experience, right? So it's an experiment. I also like to say that, and everyone that works in human design will say that as well. It's not about learning something new, but it's actually about experimenting with it, right? So when you first come to your human design, it can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. As a system that it is, it has very clear entry points, like the ones that we shared during our session, right? And that I know that you have been
Mhm.
experimenting with them. And I think that that's the most important thing, because it's not about learning more. It's actually about using that wisdom, that knowledge, and turning it into wisdom by actually going through it and experimenting with it. So it's an experience.
Mhm. And you already started to mention that there are
Yeah.
generators, projections, maybe projectors. Maybe
Yes.
you want to elaborate on those
Yeah. So human
different types.
design, again, as an energetic system, it recognizes that there are 5 energy types, right? So the whole population is kind of categorized in energy types. And I also want to say that it's not about putting another label, because we're not into that. It's kind of guidance, right? It's not about like boxing
Yeah.
ourselves into something different, but it's actually about understanding how our energy flow works best. So we have generators and
Mm.
manifesting generators, which are the majority, kind of 70% of the population, which already tells us a lot, right? Then we have projectors like you, 20%. Then we have, yes, and I have many, many client projectors, and they actually love to learn about this design because it explains so much of their own experience, right? Then we have the manifestors, which is 9%, also like a minority. And then finally, we have the reflectors, which is a very unique and rare type, which is only 1% of the population. So their life experience is completely different, right? And basically, what this is called energy type in human design. And what this tells us is that our energy works in different ways, right? So everyone that is a generator or manifesting generator, we have immense capacity to use our energy. We have kind of a built-in battery that we're meant to use up throughout the day in a way that is super satisfying, right? So it's really about following our joy and our gut. We're sacral beings. Our gut is always, guiding the way. So it's all about like really being very open to what comes our way and seeing how we respond to it. And again, I'm actually making it like
Mm.
I'm moving, because it really is not with the mind, but it's something that it's it's embodied. It's embodied wisdom, right? It's something that in our body tells us, is this way or not? Am I excited about this? Does it bring me joy
Mm.
and satisfaction, which is what I'm after, or not? So I really need to listen to that gut response.
Yeah, so it's like, I think when you were sharing, and I think we talked about it. It's actually my husband and
Mhm.
I think my son also. They are the generators or manifesto generators, right? You put them in the same kind of category. So yeah, I can recon, especially with my husband. It's like he always had this. It's just a gut feeling, right? So it's just this gut feeling. This gut is basically very present then, right? This part of the body.
Absolutely. And so
Yeah.
this is where we actually need to listen to, whenever we're
Yeah.
making a decision, whenever we're given an option. Then we have, and again, our God is pointing us towards our joy and our satisfaction. So when I'm lit up, when
Mm.
I'm talking about what I love to talk, when I'm using my energy, I am
Yeah.
contagious. I'm actually alchemizing, if you will, the energy, into higher vibration, right? And then I become magnetic,
Yeah.
right? And so it's
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm curious the question here because I can see that. And also I think that the joy, isn't that not for all the times? Because joy is a higher frequency vibration. It's in simplicity, if we just focus more on what makes us feel joy, it's also kind of like a
Absolutely.
North Star. Because then we obviously are in our presence, in our alignment, in our purpose, our passion. The joy is kind of also is it only for the generators or it's also
No,
for
in
other types?
general, these are signposts that every energy type, and I really want to touch on the others. Generators were the
Hmm.
majority, right? And we are here to make things happen. So it really makes sense that we follow our joy, because again, like the more contagious we are, the more we elevate the energy around us, right? But no, joy,
Mm,
I'm gonna say, it is really my cue. It's like I'm actually after satisfaction, actually. For generators and manifesting generators, the signpost to know that I'm on track, which is very interesting. This is very human design
mhm,
language as well.
mhm, mhm,
It's satisfaction. The opposite is
mhm.
frustration. So joy is for everyone, for sure,
Sure.
right? Like it's, as you're saying, in the scale of, emotions, and then it's a really high level emotion. But for generators, the signpost to know that I'm on track is satisfaction. The opposite is frustration. So if there's something for everyone listening, there's something that is a constant source of perpetual exhaustion or frustration or feeling stuck, it means that something needs to change in the way that we're using our energy. Projectors are only 20% of the population, and you're here not so much to do, but actually it's about the value that your perspective brings, right? And so there's a lot of conditioning in thinking that, you're lazy because you actually need to rest, but that's not true. It really is that your energy, if generators and manifesting generators, we have a battery that is meant to be used up throughout the day. Yours is a rechargeable one, right? So it wears up like sooner, right? So your energy works really well in bursts. So you can have like 3 or 4 hours of super productive work, and then you need to actually pull away and be in your own energy and rest. So for you, rest is strategic, right? So you're here.
Yes, it is. And I love when you mentioned the burst because I can so much
So back to
resonate
back
with that.
meetings, for example, going back to how you work with teams and how do you bring this to corporate, right? Like back to back
Yeah.
meetings are really bad ideas for projectors, because actually you need time to really think. Your energy is much more about the perspective
Mm.
that you bring, right? So you're here really to work smarter, not harder, and to show that success can be rooted in ease, right? You're the new leaders of this world, right? So it's really projector energy is not so much how much you do, but how can you guide the energy of others, right? So also dropping that everyone can do anything, right? Human design will never tell you what you can or you can't do. I hear sometimes that, oh, I don't have energy, or manifestors, which is the next group, can't lead. I don't think that that's true. It's just about actually knowing how is your how, so that you can best use it, right? So
Absolutely. And I resonate so much with this being, right? When you are just now also again explaining that to me. And it's that's why I'm so fascinated about, breaking through the paradigm of doing more and harder, which I've been obviously for many years and conditioned by, as most of us, towards exploring and embodying and walking the path of others who already embodied that, leading from the place of being more
yeah,
rather than doing more, which I think it's for every energy type, even like a general guideline for our society to think about and move to more sustained organizations as well and businesses. But going back to the projector, and it's interesting how, yeah, it completely resonated for me because I'm a projector, right? The power of perspective, and I could resonate or remember well where this constant meetings and stuff which I experienced in my corporate world has not felt really in alignment that time,
yeah,
right? So So how I differently plan my days since I'm in entrepreneurship is just so much different. So yeah, if I knew that again earlier, I would have done
Yeah.
differently as well. Cool. We go to
Manifestors,
manifestos then,
manifestors. So
right?
one thing I'm gonna say about manifestors as well as projectors, you need space in your day, right? It's really about building in spaciousness so you can actually be without doing so much. Manifestors energy, only 9%, is really about like they are the natural leaders, disruptors, innovators. They're here to do life different. And they're also here to show us that, they can be very bold in their expression and just like they're not here to be told what to do or how to do it. They're here to show a new way of doing life, right? So if you think of a car, they are the ignition. They're the ignition key, right? Generators and manifesting generators were the motor, we're the engine. Projectors, you're the steering wheel. You guide the energy. And reflectors, which is the last group, is actually the rear view mirror. They reflect back the state of events, right? So manifestor energy is super powerful, but it also works inverse. So they can like get so much done in really no time, but they actually need to pull away and rest, right? Eventually. And so they're not here. They're actually here. They have most energy at the beginning of a process, but they don't necessarily have all the energy to sustain it, to bring it to life fully, right? So they're here to initiate and then, delegate to someone. And now you can start seeing how all the different energy types may have conditioning, right? The conditioning to keep up with the
Yeah.
world around you for projectors, for example. Manifestors, they're here to innovate and to be bold and really trust that internal urge to do something different. But they may think, who am I to do this? Who am I to stand out?
Yeah.
Right? Uh,
I can see that. And my daughter has is apparently the type, so I can resonate with what you were saying when you were saying about describing the person of a manifestor. Sometimes when I was reading this explanation or was talking to you, I could see myself
okay.
in both because they are very close. But I think there is always a dominant tendency, and maybe the others are just like sometimes you can have like in every style, you are not really 100% just in one. But I do resonate with obviously the overall, I think, projector, and yeah, I can resonate with what you say about the spark, the boldness, the I can do it in a
And they
different
have
way.
to.
Yes, that
They have to.
resonates also.
There's one difference
Yeah.
because I think it's interesting. I hear a lot of people that tend to see themselves in different energy types. And actually, how does it actually work? That's the question that I always ask because that could be conditioning. So the way that you need the rest and everything, that's for sure. But as a projector, you need to be invited in. You need to be acknowledged and invited in.
Mm,
Manifestor energy is completely different. They don't need any invitation. They just need to go. They really need to trust that internal urge and go and make things happen, which is a
mm,
very different way
mm.
that's called strategy. It's a very, very different way of using the
Yeah.
energy. So when I have, and I think that's beautiful, right? When I have a projector saying, well, I want to initiate and just go and make something, and it's not being recognized or invited in, how does it actually feel? And does it even work? Because most of the time it flows just much more better when you're invited in, when you're recognized. And I say, hey, Dagmara, I really want you to be a speaker in this podcast or in this conference. How does it feel for you? Because your signpost.
Of course. Of course, of course. And it doesn't mean that you just sit and wait, because I think then the smartness is, as we talked before the podcast, right, is about how do I channel it. So it's visibility, right, which is important part of my
Absolutely.
strategy. First of all, from making an impact is that now is my role and with the mission of extraordinary leadership. So it's first of all visibility matters, but for making an impact. But of course, it is also attracting business opportunities. That's the natural way, right? Of for the projector, then, right? Align more in the
Yeah.
projector type.
Think about
Yeah,
projector. I like to compare it to a lighthouse. You're here to shine your light,
beautiful.
and then people will see, and they will be drawn to your wisdom, right? But it needs to be seen first. So your job is to make yourself visible. So every energy type has their own way of doing things. For all generators and manifesting generators, there are some differences in the way they use the energy as well. But they need to respond to something outside of their world. For projectors, you need to be invited in,
Mm.
but that doesn't mean that we're just waiting, no, you need
Yeah.
to work on like making yourself visible. Like, hey, I'm interested in this, but that's it. Let people see you and acknowledge you and recognize you so that you can actually share your most important gift, that is your perspective. That's the value. When you share without not being invited, it's like planting seeds in unfertile ground. It will just not evolve, right? Or it will take much more
Yeah.
energy. And we're actually going all these, or we're integrating this wisdom so that we can actually find more alignment and find more flow. So for manifestors, they are the only type that they don't need anything outside of themselves to move themselves into action. It's just they have this internal urge. They need to go and make it happen. The conditioning is like they are like
Mm.
kind of lions, but they behave like kittens, so out of alignment. Of course, like it's like like I have all these ideas and everything, but who am I? So that's what we actually in a reading or in a coaching session we break, right? Because they're here to follow that and to be an innovator and a disruptor. And finally, we have the reflectors, which are, if you look at their chart, every energy center is open or undefined. So it means that they're completely open. Their charts are completely open. There's no energy center that where they are impacting others. They're always receiving, 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 and so they actually receive and amplify. So they make really good evaluators at the center of the community, for example, because they can actually sense what we don't. They can really sense, what's working, what's not working. So they can be really good facilitators and evaluators at the center of a community. And their state of they actually reflect the state of well-being. When they are thriving, fine. But not, it means that something needs to change. So they're really, really wise, right? So
So like a mirror, right? In a team, if you have a member, then basically that's I can already imagine all of them in different, with different talents
yeah,
and different gifts and for different purpose to be utilized or
yeah,
unleashed, right? Because so in a team is such a wisdom when you know about it, and also for your own career choices or role choices
absolutely.
as well. Uh, and finally adapting your way of leading and mastering
Yeah,
yourself so that you do
yeah.
authentically and harness that
Yeah,
resources as
exactly.
well.
And so going back into alignment, I put it there like in the parking lot. I think alignment, or my understanding of alignment, is really aligning, becoming coherent between what our bodies are telling us, like the gut feeling, the intuition, with what we actually
Mhm.
think, right? And what we end up doing. When we become coherent and aligned in all of that, we're sending a really clear signal to the universe. So again, a no that is a no is really, really powerful. A yes that is a yes, it's as powerful as well. And a no that is a no creates room for more yes, right? So it's really about becoming
Uh,
coherent and resonant energetically.
yes, and I love that you mentioned that because maybe we can spend a few minutes on that because so first of all, thank you for walking us through, those four different or five different types,
Mm-hmm.
regroup in four, let's say. Because I think for listeners, is like if I'm already, my mind is like, oh, how do I use this information now in my team? Or, oh, I could see this person is there, this person's there. Where am I? So I'm sure that there is, first of all, a curiosity going on by listening to our conversation and interest into exploring more. At least that what would be for me without knowing this framework. And now moving towards the alignment, I love that you mentioned that it is not only the mind or mindset alignment. Very often, when I speak about alignment on social media or in podcasts and anywhere, I'm noticing that everybody is like, yeah, of course, it's like a no-brainer exercise. Like we just need to know the purpose, like a mechanical process, right? Like values and goals and priorities, and we just align our action to it. But it's such a misconception of what alignment means. So hints to me to spread more awareness that too, because I like what you said about the coherence. It's about your mind and body, or mind and heart alignment, let's say. And of course, energetic alignment comes out of it, right? As a beautiful result. This is where the challenge lies for most of the leaders, because for most of the leaders and most of the people, we are still so much leading from the mind and thinking that the alignment on our actions, decisions is just from the mind, where it's actually just this 5% of what we consider mind, because it's a conscious mind, which is 5%. And 95% of our actions and decisions, or the way we show up, is driven by autopilot, subconscious program, which is, as you mentioned, the conditioning. And the alignment, from my, the way I see that whole alignment is basically breaking through on this conditional, or liberating ourselves from this conditioning, so that we can really lead from our authentic true self, from this aligned energy and a coherence between our mind and body, and dropping from the mind to the body, for example, for decision taking, right? Or strategy alignment. So this is like the strategy in my business. Once, I discovered all of these things, which I prioritize above any other strategy that is there, that is so populated in, what is the strategy, how to do things. But first we need to be aligned within ourselves in that aligned energy, so that we can come with the
Yeah.
best ideas,
Yeah, and I
for
love that
example.
because you read so many books of management and all of that. And everyone comes with their own kind of book of what works for them, but that doesn't mean that necessarily will work for you as well. If you have a different energy type, you're trying to initiate, it will not work, right? So knowing yourself and knowing what works for you, it's I think it's so important. The other thing that I wanted to say is that the mind, we put so much energy in the mind, and focusing on training our mindset and all of that. And that definitely has a place, right? Because that's such a powerful force as well. However, no one makes decisions with their mind. And why is that? Because it's so powerful that we will be in a loop forever, right? Lists of pros and cons are the worst idea ever. We make decisions based on a function of our body. So we really need to know where it's guiding us towards. The mind operates from the past. It operates from what it knows because it's there to keep us, it's there to keep us safe. It's there from that the conditioning, everything that we know, everything that we've been trained for. But we have a built-in compass that orients us to the present moment and the future, right? And by definition, intuition is not there to be made sense of. You can't. It's there to be trusted.
Absolutely. And I can, yeah, that's when you were sharing that, I was thinking, okay, that's probably a beautiful
That's
another
that.
conversation of how the subconscious will work, because there is a lot of there, of course, and totally resonating with, with how important it is to, at the end, to get to know yourself more and know your authentic self. The way I see this whole transformative work, and I would say leadership evolution, I call it, is peeling the onions of this conditioning and coming to this diamonds
Mm.
that we all have inside, which we can call truest, highest, authentic version of ourselves, which is then in alignment, and acting or leading or operating from this aligned space of mind and body connection. And yeah, I think that that's
Yeah.
another conversation. Thinking about our time today, Paula, I really enjoy that you highlighted, the different types and, of course, the benefits for oneself as well as for a team, which I think by now everybody can kind of see, because obviously understanding better these types brings more clarity. And I was just wondering how a person that would like to find out more about, human design, what would be the steps, and,
Mm.
how you would approach them to help people to discover the human design
Definitely.
applied.
And so I'm going to say my own experience. The first time I saw this chart, I was like, oh my, this is so overwhelming. There's just so many numbers. It really doesn't make any
Mhm.
sense, but it doesn't have to be. If anyone feels called to explore more, there is a system. I I work with it. I do human design readings and everything. But the first step is to actually find out your chart. And you can do that in my website, for example, is tobehonest.eu. you can actually enter your birth details there, and then you will find out your energy type. And then that's the beginning, actually. When you download your chart and everything, I have a little bit of a description that says, hey, Dagmar, you're a projector. This means that this and this and this, watch out for this in your higher expression. You do that in your lower expression. This is what you need to watch out for. So that's the first step. If you want to go deeper, there's like so many information. I am very proud that I have now the Book of You. I have created the Book of You, which is a unique energetic blueprint. So as I said, everyone has their own way of doing life, right? So what I did is I created this ebook that is entirely customized for everyone. You have yours, right? And so it's
Yeah,
50 plus
I do.
pages of what makes you you. So that's why I call it the Book of You, right? So I actually have a printed copy here. Right. And so here
Yes.
you have all this, like how you are designed to make decisions, how your energy works best, what do you need to listen to know that you're on track of not, right? And all of that. And of course, if anyone wants to really go deeper, there's always the possibility to do readings, which is 90-minute sessions like the one we had, where you actually, it's a next level of depth, because it's not just about me telling you what you're made of, but it's actually peeling off like the conditioning, what you're saying, right? Like, okay, but I thought, or I'm used to doing that. Okay, how does it actually work? And why do you think that you need to do that? How would it look like if you were doing it in a different way? So a reading is powerful. And
Mm.
then for teams, it kind of works the same way. I work with teams where I actually have a reading with each team member, and then we come all together to understand what are the energies of the group. What do we
Mhm.
need to, bring more in, or what do we need to be very mindful of, so that we can actually honor each other better.
Yeah, I love the outline because basically it starts very easy. So I think everybody listening to us, link to your website also in the description of this episode. So basically it's easy to find
Yeah.
this website. And as you mentioned, it's on the front page. So it's definitely something that is quick because people are impatient. I am normally, okay, I want to know now. So I would definitely go there and check, okay, what is it? And there are then the next steps, which allows you to enter into more depth if that's resonate with you for now. And then of course ultimately also have a reading, which I would say it's more than reading, right? It's a really a coaching conversation the way you facilitate it, and it's
Yeah.
deeper awareness conversation, which is beautiful. I can recommend to
Mm.
anybody. And I love my workbook, my book, not workbook, my book, which I can go back and reread as well. So really a great product as well, and supporting. And yeah, you can basically, you
No.
don't lose that information, because so many times we have sessions or certain, I don't know, assessments, and then we forget about we forget just what is the most important, but not the depth. Here you can go back. So thank you very much, Paula, for sharing with us
Mm-hmm.
all about human design. Well, not all, because in this podcast for sure we didn't cover all, but the top line of human design. What is it? Why it's important for leaders? I hope listeners are feeling really curious about finding more and going to your website to check more about that. And let's see, maybe we reconnect in another conversation in the realm of energy and alignment, because we sparkle some understanding, some other side topics. So
I love
let's
that.
look into that. Is there anything that you would like to leave the listeners with? Any final message to the listeners from you?
I think the message is like we all come here with an essence, right? Before society told us who we're here to be or who we're supposed to be and everything. And that's one of the biggest regrets, not living authentically, right? So I think this system is really, really, and this or any other system that you feel called to, right? This is one of. I am very passionate about it, but at the end of the day, it's like we're here to live our purpose, and our purpose is not what we do, is who we are, is right, it's living
Mm,
our essence. And so if I can say anything, any last message or anything, is do the work, and allow yourself, give yourself permission to be who you are, so that you can be free.
yeah, by
Sorry.
discovering who you are with things like
I
human
think
design.
it's remembering.
Thank you.
It's really, really remembering, because we know deep inside. That's why um, you said it's like confirmation of something that we know already. So we all, like, it's cliche. I know it sounds cliche, but we all have everything that we need within us. This is just about remembering.
Yeah. Yes, and reaffirming, because sometimes we might remember, but we don't remember because it's so much under layer of fears, right?
That's another
That's the tricky
conversation.
part. Cool. Thank you very. Yes, thank you, Paula. Well, the resonance was there. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for this conversation, and to all the listeners, I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as me. And go ahead and try the free version of the human design on the website of Paula. The link is below. And curious to hear what you take away from this conversation. Share with us in comments or any questions that we can support in between. And I'm looking forward to see you in the
Thank you
next
so
episode.
much, like Mara, for having me, and for everyone for tuning in. I think that the more that we can spread this awareness, the more we're elevating the world around us. So thank you so much. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you very much for your follow as well. And bye to Netherlands.
Bye.